For 3,000 years, the Zarathian Empire had never known defeat. Entire galaxies trembled whenever their colossal battle fleets emerged from hyperspace. Their crimson banners marked the end of civilizations. Planets surrendered before the first shot was fired, knowing resistance was nothing more than a slow death. The Empire believed one simple truth: nothing in the universe could challenge Zarathian supremacy. Until the day a single unidentified ship appeared. Far beyond the Empire's frontier, in the empty silence of the Nexus expanse, listening station K-47 detected an impossible energy signature. Commander Verex frowned as the holographic display flashed red. Unknown vessel entering monitored space. The operators exchanged confused glances. No hyperspace rupture. No warp tunnel. No quantum gateway. It simply appeared. Silence filled the control room. That wasn't possible. Every known civilization used some form of faster-than-light travel that left detectable traces. This ship had left none. As the scanners zoomed closer, disbelief spread across every officer's face. The vessel wasn't massive. It wasn't surrounded by escorts. It carried no recognizable Empire identification. Just one ship. A smooth black hull stretched through space like polished obsidian. No visible weapons. No glowing engines. No communications arrays. It drifted quietly. Almost peacefully. Commander Verex smirked. A lost explorer? The crew laughed. One ship wandering into Imperial territory wasn't unusual. It was suicide. Within minutes, the report reached Imperial High Command. Grand Admiral Zirin barely looked up from his tactical table. Species? Unknown. Military strength? Impossible to determine. Escort? None. The Admiral smiled. So, one ship. Yes, Admiral. The officers waited. Finally, Zirin spoke. Dispatch the 9th Patrol Fleet. Everyone nodded. 32 Imperial warships. Enough firepower to erase continents. Against one unidentified vessel. It was almost insulting. Hours later, the 9th Fleet emerged around the mysterious craft. Battleships. Destroyers. Interceptors. Missile cruisers. The black ship remained perfectly still. Fleet Commander Talos opened a communication channel. Unknown vessel. You have entered Imperial territory. Power down immediately. No response. He repeated the warning. Still nothing. Some officers became nervous. Others laughed. Talos narrowed his eyes. Perhaps their communications are damaged. Another officer shook his head. No life signs. What? No biological signatures. No artificial intelligence signatures. No detectable crew. The bridge became silent. So, it's empty? Before anyone answered, the mysterious ship moved. Not with engines. Not with acceleration. It simply shifted position. Instantly. One moment it floated ahead. The next, it stood directly in the center of the Imperial formation. Every tactical computer froze. What just happened? No velocity detected. Impossible. Commander Talos immediately ordered weapons online. Target the vessel. Missiles locked. Plasma cannons charged. Gravity lances aligned. Thousands of weapons aimed toward one silent ship. Every targeting system failed. Displays turned black. Weapons shut down. Power fluctuations raced through the fleet. Engineers shouted across every vessel. We've lost targeting. Navigation offline. Shield generators inactive. What is happening? The unknown ship never fired. Never transmitted. Never even rotated. It simply remained motionless. Watching. Or perhaps, waiting. Back on Station K-47, Commander Verex received frantic transmissions from the patrol fleet. We've lost all systems. Request immediate reinforcement. Unknown electronic attack. The signal suddenly cut off. Static filled every frequency. For 12 long seconds? Nothing. Then every Imperial signal disappeared. All 32 warships. Gone. Not destroyed. Not exploding. Not retreating. Simply gone. Deep inside the Imperial capital, emergency alarms echoed through high command. The tactical map flickered. 32 fleet markers vanished simultaneously. Grand Admiral Zirin stood frozen. Locate them. No signal. Emergency beacons? None. Wreckage? Nothing. The officers searched every sensor network across 12 sectors. There was absolutely nothing. It was as if the fleet had never existed. For the first time in centuries, fear entered the Imperial War Council, because one silent ship had just erased an entire fleet, without firing a single shot. The silence that followed the disappearance of the 9th Patrol Fleet spread through the Zarathian Empire faster than any distress signal. For centuries, Imperial citizens had believed their navy was invincible. Entire civilizations had surrendered at the mere sight of a Zarathian battle group. Yet now, 32 warships had vanished without a battle, without debris, and without even a final transmission. Inside the Imperial War Citadel, panic was carefully hidden behind disciplined faces. Grand Admiral Zirin stood before the massive tactical display. The empty space where the 9th Fleet had once been glowed like an open wound. Run every possibility, he ordered. Artificial intelligence cores analyzed billions of scenarios. Ambush. Impossible. Cloaking technology. Impossible. Wormhole collapse. Impossible. Experimental superweapon. Probability, less than 0.0001%. The conclusion appeared across the display. Cause unknown. For the first time in decades, the Empire had no explanation. Meanwhile, the mysterious black ship had not moved. It still floated silently in the Nexus expanse, exactly where the patrol fleet had disappeared. Long-range telescopes observed every detail. Its smooth obsidian hull reflected distant stars like a mirror. No engine trails. No weapon ports. No heat signatures. It looked less like a warship and more like a piece of the universe itself. Commander Verex whispered, "It's waiting." No one argued. The Imperial Council demanded action. Some senators called for negotiations. Others demanded immediate annihilation. The longer it remains there, one governor warned, the weaker the Empire appears. Supreme Emperor Kale finally spoke. One ship has challenged our authority. His golden eyes swept across the chamber. We will answer with overwhelming force. The order was given. Deploy the First Dominion Fleet. Not 32 ships. Not 100. Over 800 of the Empire's most advanced warships. Titan-class dreadnoughts. Planet breaker cruisers. Carrier fortresses holding thousands of strike craft. The largest fleet assembled in over 200 years. If the unknown vessel truly possessed unimaginable technology, it would now face the full strength of Zarathian military power. Across dozens of star systems, hyperspace gates ignited. One by one, warships entered formation. The fleet stretched across millions of kilometers. Their combined firepower could reduce entire solar systems to lifeless dust. Admiral Serac, commander of the Dominion Fleet, looked at the tactical projection of the lone black ship. One vessel. He almost laughed. I refuse to believe this thing destroyed the 9th Fleet. His communications officer hesitated. Sir, perhaps we should observe first. Serac shook his head. Fear spreads faster than facts. He pointed toward the target. We end this today. Hours later, the Dominion Fleet arrived. Space itself seemed to disappear behind the endless formation of Imperial ships. The black vessel remained exactly where it had always been. Still, silent. Alone. The contrast was almost absurd. Hundreds of colossal battleships surrounded a single motionless craft. Serac activated every communications frequency. Unknown vessel. You are surrounded. Surrender immediately. We will permit your crew to live. Silence. No reply. No movement. Nothing. Then something unexpected happened. The mysterious ship transmitted a signal. Not words. Not images. Just a simple sequence of mathematical patterns. Prime numbers. Universal constants. The structure of atoms. the speed of light. Every scientist recognized it immediately. It was proving intelligence. Then the signal changed. A single sentence appeared after the equations. "You should leave." The bridge fell silent. One officer swallowed hard. "That's human." Serac frowned. "Humans?" The archives flashed onto the display. Species designation, humanity. Status, extinct. Last confirmed sighting, over 4,000 years ago. History recorded that humanity had vanished after the catastrophic collapse wars, leaving behind only scattered ruins and forgotten legends. "Impossible," Serac muttered. "There are no humans left." Before anyone could respond, the unknown vessel spoke once more. Its calm synthetic voice echoed through every Imperial ship simultaneously. "You have entered protected territory. This is your only warning." Several officers exchanged nervous glances. Protected by whom? There was only one ship. Serac stood from his command throne. "Lock every weapon." 800 targeting arrays came online. The darkness of space filled with glowing weapon indicators. Missiles armed. Graviton cannons charged. Antimatter lances prepared to fire. One command would unleash enough energy to erase continents. The black ship never reacted. Instead, its surface began to glow with faint silver lines, spreading across the hull like living circuits. The surrounding stars started to bend. Not because of gravity, because space itself was changing. Sensors screamed with impossible readings. One terrified technician shouted, "Sir, local reality is becoming unstable." Another stared at his console in disbelief. "Our instruments say, the ship isn't inside our universe anymore." Admiral Serac's confidence finally cracked. "What is that thing?" Before anyone could answer, the black vessel disappeared. Not into hyperspace. Not by cloaking. It simply ceased to exist. And every Imperial alarm began to scream at once. The bridge of the Imperial flagship Dominion's wrath erupted into chaos. Target lost. No hyperspace signature. Quantum scanners negative. Gravitational trace, 0. Admiral Serac gripped the edge of his command console. "Find that ship." Hundreds of sensor arrays swept every direction simultaneously. Long-range telescopes searched nearby star systems. Deep space radar reached millions of kilometers into the void. Nothing. The black vessel had vanished as though it had never existed. Then, without warning, every screen on every Imperial ship flickered. A single message appeared. "Look behind you." A cold silence settled across the fleet. Slowly, thousands of officers turned toward the rear observation windows. At first, they saw only stars. Then, the stars began to disappear. Not because something blocked them, because something impossibly enormous was unfolding from empty space. It looked as if reality itself was opening like a giant curtain. From that fracture emerged the same black ship. Still silent. Still alone. Yet now, everyone realized the horrifying truth. The vessel they had been chasing before had not been its full size. It had merely projected a tiny fraction of itself into normal space. As the distortion expanded, more of its true form became visible. Kilometers became hundreds of kilometers. Hundreds became thousands. The ship continued unfolding beyond the limits of every scanner. One frightened officer whispered, "That isn't a battleship. It's a mobile fortress." Another scientist shook his head. "No, it isn't even that. Our instruments can't calculate where it ends." Across the Dominion fleet, panic spread. Every captain received the same impossible report. The object's mass exceeds planetary limits. No, it exceeds stellar limits. The chief physicist looked pale. It occupies multiple spatial dimensions simultaneously. Admiral Serac stared in disbelief. "That cannot exist." The physicist answered quietly, "Neither should it." Suddenly, a calm voice echoed through every communication channel. Not mechanical, not hostile, almost compassionate. "We warned you." The entire fleet froze. The voice continued, "We have no desire for war. Turn back. Live. One simple choice. or stay. The bridge officers looked toward Admiral Serac. Every instinct told them to retreat. But pride had ruled the Empire for centuries. Retreat before one ship? Unthinkable. Serac slowly rose from his command chair. If this vessel belongs to humanity. He smiled bitterly. Then humanity dies today. He raised his hand. Fire. 800 Imperial warships unleashed everything they possessed. The darkness exploded into light. Millions of plasma bolts crossed space. Antimatter missiles accelerated toward the target. Graviton beams twisted space itself. The combined energy release outshone the nearby star. Observers hundreds of light-years away would later record the flash. For 27 seconds, the barrage never stopped. Finally, the firing ceased. Smoke-like clouds of energized particles drifted through space. Officers leaned forward. No ship could survive that. The scanners cleared. Gasps echoed across every bridge. The black vessel remained exactly where it had been. Perfect. Untouched. Not a single mark scarred its surface. Its silver lines continued glowing peacefully. As though nothing had happened. Then something impossible occurred. Every projectile that had missed the ship suddenly stopped moving. Thousands of missiles. Frozen in space. Plasma bolts? Suspended like glowing sculptures. Even energy beams remained motionless. Time itself seemed to have halted around the battlefield. The fleet watched in horror. One engineer whispered, "It's controlling time." Another corrected him. "No. It's controlling reality." The calm voice returned. Violence always carries consequences. The frozen weapons slowly rotated. Every missile, every plasma bolt, every graviton lance, now pointed directly back toward the ships that had fired them. Bridge crews erupted into panic. Raise shields. Emergency evasive maneuvers. Restart weapon systems. Nothing responded. Every Imperial vessel had lost control. The fleet was completely helpless. Admiral Serac finally understood. This enemy had never disabled them because it needed to. It had done so because it was being merciful. The voice spoke one final time. "Your weapons belong to you." With a silent pulse, every frozen projectile accelerated. Back toward its original owner. The darkness of space erupted into thousands of explosions. Cruisers vanished in expanding spheres of fire. Destroyers broke apart like shattered glass. Carrier fortresses split in half before their fighters could launch. The once mighty Dominion fleet dissolved into chaos in seconds. But the greatest horror wasn't the destruction. It was what happened next. As the surviving officers watched in disbelief, the wreckage didn't remain. One by one, the burning ships simply disappeared. Exactly like the 9th Patrol Fleet. No debris. No escape pods. No bodies. Only empty space. As though the universe itself had erased every trace of their existence. Far away, hidden inside the black vessel, a single human commander looked at the tactical display and quietly said, "Record the engagement. We still haven't fired a single shot." The destruction of the Dominion fleet should have shaken the galaxy. Instead, it terrified it into silence. Across thousands of star systems, long-range observatories replayed the same impossible recording. 800 Imperial warships had attacked. Not one enemy weapon had fired. Yet the entire fleet had vanished. No wreckage. No survivors. No energy signatures consistent with any known superweapon. Only empty space. Within hours, every major civilization suspended military operations near Imperial borders. Merchant convoys altered centuries-old trade routes. Exploration fleets were recalled home. The galaxy had reached a single conclusion. Something far older and far more powerful than the Empire had awakened. Inside the Imperial capital, the atmosphere had changed completely. The magnificent Hall of Victory, once filled with confident admirals and triumphant banners, now echoed with uneasy whispers. Grand Admiral Zirin stood before Emperor Kale. For the first time in his career, he had no battle plan to present. "We have lost communication with the Dominion fleet," Zirin said quietly. The Emperor narrowed his eyes. "You mean destroyed?" Zirin slowly shook his head. No, Your Majesty. They simply no longer exist. Silence filled the throne room. One scientist finally stepped forward carrying an ancient data crystal recovered from the Empire's oldest archives. My Emperor! I believe we've seen this before. The chamber lights dimmed as a forgotten recording appeared. It was over 5,000 years old. The image was heavily damaged, but one detail remained unmistakable. A black ship. The same smooth hull. The same silver energy lines. The same impossible design. The recording came from an extinct civilization known as the Aurelian Concord, a race believed to have rivaled the ancient gods of the galaxy. Their final message echoed through the chamber. If you encounter the Silent Guardian, do not engage. It is not a conqueror. It is a warden. The recording crackled with static. Then another voice spoke, filled with fear. It protects something. And anyone who crosses that boundary. The message ended abruptly. No explanation. No survivors. The Imperial Council erupted into arguments. A myth cannot destroy fleets. It has to be a human superweapon. Humans have been extinct for millennia. What if they never disappeared? The room fell silent. That possibility had never been considered. Every historical record about humanity came from fragmented archives written after the collapse wars. No one actually knew how the human civilization had ended, only that they had vanished. Or chosen to vanish. Meanwhile, aboard the mysterious black vessel, for the first time, the audience saw its interior. It was unlike any ship ever built. There were no flashing control panels. No loud engines. No crowded bridge. Instead, a vast circular chamber overlooked the stars through a transparent wall stretching hundreds of meters high. Everything was calm, elegant, almost peaceful. At the center stood a single figure. An elderly human wearing a dark naval uniform without medals or decorations. His hair was silver. His posture was perfectly straight. His eyes carried the weight of countless centuries. Captain Elias Ward, the last active commander of the Ark Sentinel. A soft artificial voice spoke from the room itself. Captain. Imperial fleet neutralized. 0 hostile casualties directly inflicted. Ward nodded. As expected. The AI continued. Probability of another Imperial assault, 98%. Ward looked toward the stars. They still don't understand. They think we're defending ourselves. He paused. We're defending everyone. Deep beneath the ship, hidden behind layers of impossible technology, rested something no living civilization had ever seen. A massive gateway floated inside an endless chamber. Its surface shimmered with black and silver energy. The AI projected ancient warning symbols around it. Dimensional lock remained stable. Barrier integrity, 99.9%. Captain Ward stared at the gateway for several long moments. If that seal breaks... He never finished the sentence. He didn't need to. The AI already knew. Every human who had built the Ark Sentinel had known. The Empire believed the lone ship was guarding territory. In reality, it was guarding a prison. One older than stars. One that humanity had sacrificed nearly its entire civilization to contain. Far away, Emperor Kale ignored every warning from his advisors. His pride had become obsession. He slammed his fist onto the throne. If one ship blocks my empire, then I will personally lead every remaining fleet. The room fell silent. More than 12,000 Imperial warships were already assembling around the capital. It would become the largest military force ever gathered in galactic history. No empire had ever deployed such overwhelming power. Grand Admiral Zirin lowered his head. My Emperor, if the ancient records are true, we are not preparing for a war. We are preparing for our extinction. Kale's eyes hardened. I would rather die as Emperor than kneel before one human ship. At that exact moment, aboard the Ark Sentinel, the AI interrupted the silence. Captain, multiple hyperspace ruptures detected. Ward slowly closed his eyes. So, the final battle begins. The stars vanished behind an endless wall of Imperial warships. Hyperspace ruptures tore across the Nexus expanse one after another until space itself seemed fractured. Thousands of crimson vessels emerged in perfect formation, stretching farther than the eye could see. 12,000 warships, dreadnoughts, planet killers, carrier fortresses, Titan-class command ships. At their center stood the Imperial flagship Eternal Crown, where Emperor Kale commanded the greatest fleet the Zarathian Empire had ever assembled. Never before had such power been gathered for a single battle. And yet, their enemy remained exactly the same. One silent black ship. The Ark's Sentinel drifted motionless before the impossible dimensional gateway, its silver lines glowing softly against the darkness. Captain Elias Ward stood calmly in the observation chamber. The ship's AI spoke in its familiar gentle voice. "Captain, the Imperial fleet has entered the restricted zone." Ward nodded. "Open one final communication." A transmission reached every Imperial vessel. Ward's face appeared for the first time in 5,000 years. He looked nothing like the monster the Empire had imagined. Just an old man. Tired. His voice carried neither anger nor fear. "I am Captain Elias Ward of the Human Preservation Fleet. You stand before the prison of an enemy that nearly erased all intelligent life. My people sacrificed our civilization to seal it. We never claimed this region. We only guarded it." He looked directly into the camera. "If you leave now, you will live." Silence followed. Then Emperor Kale's image replaced his. "The age of humanity ended thousands of years ago. This galaxy belongs to the Empire." Ward closed his eyes for a brief moment. "I was hoping you would choose differently." The transmission ended. The Emperor raised his hand. "Fire everything." The universe exploded. Billions of weapons discharged at once. Antimatter storms engulfed the Ark Sentinel. Reality distortion beams collided with gravitational lances. Entire sections of space collapsed beneath the overwhelming assault. For nearly a full minute, nothing else could be seen. Finally, the light faded. The Ark Sentinel still floated peacefully in front of the gateway, untouched. Not a single scratch marked its ancient hull. Across the Imperial fleet, disbelief turned into terror. No shield in existence could survive that attack. Because it wasn't a shield. The Ark Sentinel wasn't blocking the weapons. It was quietly rewriting the laws of physics around itself. Suddenly, the dimensional gateway behind the human ship trembled. Warning lights illuminated the chamber. The AI spoke for the first time with urgency. "Captain, the containment field has fallen to 87%. Ward looked toward the gateway. A deep vibration echoed through the ship. Something enormous moved behind the seal. Not a ship. Not a creature. A presence. Ancient. Patient. Waiting. Ward whispered. "So, it felt the attack." The AI answered. "The continuous energy discharge is weakening the prison." Outside, strange black cracks spread across space around the gateway. Even Imperial sensors detected them. Scientists aboard the Eternal Crown stared in horror. "My Emperor! Those aren't weapon signatures. They're fractures in spacetime." Then they heard it. A sound with no source. A whisper that echoed directly inside every mind. Thousands of Imperial soldiers collapsed to their knees. Some screamed. Others simply stared into nothingness. The thing behind the gate was waking up. Captain Ward made his decision. "AI. Authorize Protocol Dawn." The ship replied immediately. Authorization confirmed. Final human directive accepted. Across the Ark Sentinel, ancient systems that had remained dormant for 5 millennia awakened. The silver lines across its hull became brilliant rivers of light. The ship began transforming. Panels shifted. Mass expanded. Energy flowed into the dimensional gateway itself. Ward smiled faintly. "My crew. You gave everything to build this prison. It's time I joined you." The AI spoke almost softly. "It has been an honor, Captain." Outside, the Empire watched in stunned silence as the lone human ship unfolded into a structure larger than a moon. Millions of glowing energy streams connected the Ark Sentinel directly to the gateway. The cracks in space slowly began closing. The imprisoned entity roared one final time. The sound shook entire star systems. Silence. The gateway stabilized. Its black surface became perfectly still once again. Mission accomplished. But the Ark Sentinel had used the last of its power. Its hull began dissolving into billions of particles of light. Captain Ward stood peacefully as the observation chamber faded around him. He looked at the stars one last time. Humanity was never meant to rule the galaxy. We were only its guardians. With those final words, the last human disappeared. The Ark Sentinel became nothing more than stardust drifting through the void. No weapon had destroyed it. Its mission had simply ended. Emperor Kale slowly lowered his head. For the first time in his life, he understood the cost of pride. The Empire withdrew every remaining fleet. A memorial beacon was later built at the edge of the Nexus expanse. It carried a single inscription, translated into every known language. Here stood humanity's last guardian. He asked for peace until the very end. Centuries later, young cadets from every civilization would travel to that lonely beacon. Not to celebrate a victory, but to remember one extraordinary truth. The strongest civilization in history wasn't the one that conquered the galaxy. It was the one that quietly sacrificed everything so the galaxy could have a future.